He's probably scared off all the opposition because he is an exceptionally well qualified candidate, and he has great hair. He has Dr. Munger is not only a doctor, he has a PhD in economics, I believe, but he is the current chair of the political science department of Duke University. And he has an extensive reputation just on that basis. So just starting with that, and then as he goes out and campaigns, he should make a great candidate. And I'm saying that even though somebody can soak him up and oppose him. But he is absolutely the best candidate we have for governor at this time.
That's nice to say.
Well, thank you for that excellent introduction. I was part of the vote by Matt Bitten's talk last night. I don't know if I disagree with this or not, but I had some questions, and in some ways I'm interested in your response. Let me start with, this is a quote from one of my favorite political economists, F.A. Hayek, who, when he thought about what is the mission of libertarians, what should libertarianism as a philosophy try to accomplish, he said this: we must make the building of a free society once more an intellectual adventure, a deed of courage. What we lack is a liberal utopia, a program which seems neither a mere defense of things as they are, nor a diluted kind of socialism, but truly liberal radicalism, which does not spare the susceptibilities of the mighty. So one of the things that a political party has to worry about is sparing the susceptibilities of the mighty. We don't want to piss people off. Which is not too severely practical and which does not confine itself to what appears today as politically possible. So the question is, how many of us feel like when we think about what we're trying to accomplish, we're not that concerned about what's politically possible, balanced against what it is a party can accomplish? And like I said last night, Matt's talk made me wonder about that because he was pretty hard on parties. He said it was kind of edgy. I actually think he's quite mistaken. But like many people who are wrong, he's not totally wrong or wrong in a way that's not interesting. Politics, as I see it, and it's practiced in the United States, is based largely on magic and religion. It's magic in the sense that the government tries to get us to think they can actually do things for us. And it's religion because they try to convince us that that's what we should want. Now, in both of these cases, these are secular things, but they're trying to persuade us. There's two bases that usually people that are libertarians take for why, the reasons that they give. One is utilitarian. It works best. The other is natural rights. There's something evil or wrong about alternative perspectives. We often kind of mix those two things together, but they're really quite distinct. And I had the experience this past week, and the people who were here, who were there with me, have gone back. But Cameron and some of the other students at NC State, I spent the day Wednesday tabling and standing out there on the brickyard trying to get signatures from NC State students. We tried to get a few from the NC State faculty also, but it was hard for them to sign with those crayons. I'm sorry, that was completely unhelpful. But there was a group of students right beside us who were looking for money for farmers. And they were pretty explicit about that they wanted help for farmers. And I had quite a chance to talk to them because when you're tabling, there's one wall. And I said that I was running for governor, and they said, well, that's really interesting. What could you do for farmers? And if that's the first question that people ask about their government, then we succumb to this problem of magic and religion. And so the question is, how can we appeal to people who believe in the magic and religion of government as it's currently being practiced? So if I run for office, part of the problem is that I have to appeal to voters as they are. Now, I grew up on a farm, and I felt like we were working for free. The oranges that we would sell, we had to pick. Picking oranges in Florida in the summer is pretty hard work. We only had 26 acres. If you're a teenage boy, the 6 weeks that it took doing nothing else except picking those oranges all day seemed like a long time. But we never thought that we should ask for help, that the goal of what we should do is take other people's money and give it to us. But that seems to be the point of view of many interest groups in politics today. So the rule of politics is, vote for me and I'll give you other people's money. And you package that in all sorts of different ways, but how is it then that we can offer an alternative that satisfies Hayek's command of building something that's an adventure, that's an intellectual adventure that appeals to people, rather than just being against stuff? We can't just be against things. What is it for? What is it that's exciting that we say, this is the alternative that you should prefer? Well, should we appeal to voters, or should we try to change voters' minds? That really is the essential question that faces off all of us, and we're torn. Should we try to appeal to voters as they are, or should we try to change voters' minds? Well, there was an incident at Virginia Tech that all of you read about. And I thought that the response that many people had to it told something about their own views of the way the world works. Now, the media, certainly most of my faculty colleagues at Duke, when they heard about the shootings at Virginia Tech, said, you know, there's too many guns. My response, and perhaps many of yours, is, well, there's actually not enough. One or two more would have made a great difference, and if people were able to own and carry guns on campus. I'm not saying the faculty should pack to class, although often it does appeal to me. But it's not obvious that the problem was too many guns. The problem was that person. Well, last night we heard Matt give us a long list of the misbehavior of people who control the enormous coercive power of government. And his solution was, well, there's too many parties. And my reaction would be pretty much the same. No, there's actually too few. What we need is more. The fact that you would blame parties for the fact that we have concentrated this enormous coercive force in government confuses cause and effect. If government were more restricted in its abilities, and another party could lead us in that direction, then surely the answer is more, not fewer. It's not parties, just as it's not guns. It's the fact that this coercive power exists in the first place. I was privileged to testify in the U.S. Senate against the McCain-Feingold Incumbency Protection Act. That wasn't actually what it was called, but and in fact, the predictions that I made in that testimony have been borne out. It has turned out just as you would expect. But in that testimony, I also made an argument for parties and what parties can do. So if you're interested in at least my response, I'm not going to give it, but if you're interested in my response to Matt's claims about parties, then you can look at my Senate testimony. If you go to my website, you can be able to find it. And let me give you the brief summary, though. Two things that parties have to do: choose and act. Well, I should say there's two things that people have to do: choose and act. First, we make choices. We come up with a program, hopefully a coherent, well-articulated program that gives people a reason to be excited, an intellectual defense of why it is that certain policies we think lead us in a direction that make us all better off. That's hard to do as an individual. You can come up with a list of policies, but it's hard to get anyone to pay attention. So a platform, a coherent list of policies is really important. Second, the act part. It's very difficult for individuals to do anything on their own. I mean, the collective action problem that economists talk about means that I recognize that it would be better if we did A. But it's even better if y'all do A and I watch. That just leaves me no end, particularly if I think A is a good thing. So I say go. Get that A done for me. And all of us do that. What do parties do? Parties provide not just an organizational structure, but it provides offices for people who have a progressive sense of ambition about things that they'd like to accomplish. Maybe they can have a local or county chairmanship, and some of that is experience. But some of it also is having that office means I can say, I'm responsible for this. I work for, not because the government commanded me to, but I work for the esteem of others. I work for the respect of others. I have to say that one of the things that I've been impressed about this organization, this is only my second state convention, and in a way I feel a little bit that I'm susceptible to Tom's quite valid criticism of the presidential candidate that we just heard. I showed up and said, I'd like to be governor. governor. Not, I'd like to serve on some committees. Not, I'd like to run for lesser office and pay my dues. I'd just like to be governor. Well, the people in this room and the people who are often in this room at different state conventions have worked for a long time in the trenches for this organization. And without having a party, it would be very difficult for us to do that. It's not as if we don't have our differences. In fact, some of these differences, it's like the Armenian genocide. People remember 1,300 years ago, some offense. And it's difficult for us to overcome that. But we do. We work together. We get in this room. Tom's performance last night was remarkable. That's as much fun as I've ever had in a room. It was free. We raised a ton of money we wouldn't have raised without it. I wanted to echo what was said before. And I said, I want to thank you. That's not easy. And it matters that we have this shared history together. It matters that we're, as an organization, we have a way to try to move forward as a group, and in spite of the maybe petty jealousies or small differences over doctrine that divide us, it matters that as a group, we're trying to accomplish certain goals. Still though, and this is the question I was talking about with Susan at breakfast, and it was interesting for me to think, I just don't know the answer, so I wanted to ask. There were people here yesterday at the hotel that were upset about the fact that some of us had guns, and in particular, a sniper rifle, or I go to a sniper rifle. And so their reaction might be, those crazy libertarians, they're at it again. And our reaction was, ha, those soccer moms, we don't care about that. What do we do? At some point, we have to decide whether we're going to appeal to the mainstream or whether our primary efforts are going to be to changing the minds of voters. If we're going to change their minds, there's a different set of tactics are involved. But we probably have to proceed on both fronts at once. We have to have some elected officials. We have to win some elections, not just win ballot access, although it's really understandable. I mean, when I see the amount of work that's required, the fact that we've done this, 4 times? We've done 8 times. And why? It's like Sisyphus. You roll the big rock up the hill, and you don't get 10%, and it rolls right back over your sorry ass. and you know it as you're rolling it up. You think, oh no, it's coming back. And yet you roll it up anyway. Well, this time, it's not going to roll back. This time we're going to get because of me. We're going to get it because of the accumulated work that y'all have done in building a reputation for the party and in making voters think, well, you know, actually I know them, yes. I will vote for them. So what I wanted to say was to recognize that I think Matt is mistaken. There's a misunderstanding there, just as there is a misunderstanding over gun. Parties don't kill people, government kills people. We need to recognize that party is the mechanism by which we can change people's perceptions of issues. And it's the only way. Now, of course, if I were a radio host and people were listening to my words all the time, it would be different. That's not the same, though. Being a critic is not the same as saying we can hold office. We can make things work. So we have to get some people in a position where they do make things work. It's almost certainly not going to be governor, at least not this time. But we need people to run in the down ballot offices. And so what we were talking about in the little seminar that I had wanted to propose, and this is just purely from me, and it's purely a request, if each of us can pledge, once we get on the ballot, to try to find at least one candidate to run on a down ballot office, then it'll start to make a difference both in people's perception of this is really a grassroots movement, and maybe we'll win a few. Not because it's a lottery, not in a lottery, well, we're going to win 1 out of 10. It's going to take work across the board. But if we can win a few of those down ballot offices, people will start to have the experience. Plus, we're going to stay on the ballot this time, so 2 years later, we'll be on the ballot again. So, I think that as a party, we stand at a point where, as Yogi Berra is reputed to say, I came to a fork in the road and I took it. We have to take both of the forks. We have to try to appeal to voters, and we have to try to change voters' minds about the issues that we care about. But I think the key thing, and I say this out of admiration for y'all, the foundation that's been built, the key thing is going to be to stick with our principles, not compromise our principles in order to win, and yet find a way to win those elections and have people in office that we're excited about, and that other voters, when they look at it, will say, yes, they can actually run things. Of course it's hard to do both, but doing one or the other accomplishes nothing. Well, that's it for now. Thank you.
This is something that we, within the Reform Caucus, we bounced back and forth over and over again. If you look at the Civil Rights Movement, we had you had Martin Luther King out there saying, we're going to do this the nice way. And then you got Malcolm X over in a corner bouncing up and down going, kill Whitey, kill Whitey, kill Whitey. Well, I maintain that King's job was made 10 orders of magnitude easier by the fact that he could go to the people who were opposing them and go, you can deal with me, or you can deal with this crazy idiot over here. So rather than having that protest movement be done under the banner of the Libertarian Party, if you notice, the Democrats and the Greens don't go out and do their protest movement as the Democrats. They do it as Greenpeace. No, we don't.
I volunteered to be Malcolm X.
Extra ammunition.
Well, we can call the organization Bailey's Raiders.
Well,
You pointed out at the beginning, I missed something now, but after talking to you were asking about people said, one question we talked about now, I'm not the soccer mom for the party. What are you going to do for, what are you going to do for when I was campaigning at the Hillsborough Hospital, a woman came out to me and said, how do you feel about children?
Well, I like them. We can exchange recipes.
Your point about talking to people where they are or trying to change their mind impressed me a lot. Like, I said, what was this question mean? Why is this woman asking me how much about children? And that's something again they have to consider to try to get the shoes of voters and figure out exactly what they're asking.
Well, actually, I have an advantage with farmers because I was able to say I was raised on a farm. And it really, a lot of the time, it felt like we were trying to sell oranges for free because we would end up losing money by the time we had paid for disting and insecticide. But I also felt that a lot of the difficulties that we had were due to government regulations and commands about what we could do. Given a chance to compete freely, that would be a different world. That takes a kind of self-confidence. There are plenty of farmers who see themselves as fiercely independent and self-reliant.
But boy, they want those subsidies.
Well, because they say, if you want to complain about farmers, don't talk with your mouth full. And I say, if you want my money, you have to convince me to give it to you, not take it as a point of a gun. So I'm happy to buy good products if you produce good products. I'm happy to do that. But the idea that farmers are somehow benefited by having government say, if you produce in the following way, or if you plow all of the area that you own, including slopes, so that when you take it out of production, you make more money, knowing that it will cause a lot more erosion. So instead of saying, this is my land, I'm the steward of this land, I'm going to do what I can to make sure that it's still available as farmland 100 years from now. I know that there's this program that all the land I take out of production next year, I'll get paid for. I cut down trees and I plow the whole damn thing. That's not stewardship. I'm actually doing damage. I think people recognize that they're actually doing damage. So what I tried to ask them was, tell me a farm program that actually helps you. Tell me that you actually think helps you. It's actually pretty hard to help people. If I say, I'm going to give you a subsidy for every acre of land that you use to produce something, then that's a quota. That changes the value of that land because the quota is attached to the land and it's capitalized in the value of the land. Now, I make a one-time capital gain in the value of the land, but if I sell it, or if I deed it to my children, I pay taxes on it, and it's all capitalized in the increased value. That means that if somebody else buys or leases the land, all of the value is dissipated. We're not helping farmers at all. What we are helping is people that have bought up large quantities of quota because they have the money to do it. And we still have farmers right on the verge of starvation. We still have small family farmers that are unable to make a living because of the increased value of the land because we've attached an agricultural quota to it. So could you imagine a worse policy? Consumers pay far more, taxpayers pay more for the subsidy, and farmers still are going bankrupt at the same rate, except land is even more expensive, so we probably take some of it out of production. The only people that are making money are those who have managed to acquire large quantities of this land because of the artificial value of the quota in the first place. Now, there are other sorts of farm subsidy programs, but it's very difficult to think of one that actually has the effect of helping farmers. It may very well help people who own large quantities of land and are then absentee landlords. But the farmers themselves, I don't see how you do it, except perhaps by leaving them the hell alone. So a big problem that I have is that really is the summary of my entire platform as governor. Leave people the hell alone.
Where can we get the shirt of the LP?
Anyone who would like the shirt, you just make a $25 contribution that will be sent to you as a premium. And you can do that by a PayPal on my website.
All right.
All right.